you have to be extremely poor to qualify for Medicaid long-term care, or facilities that accept Medicaid are horrid places that you and your loved ones would never want to be at. I thought that too. And so we're going to go over a lot of these things and other common misconceptions. Today we're going to speak with Bobbi Meloro about Medicaid and long-term Medicaid. Bobbi, if you can give us a little bit of information about yourself, that would be great.
Sure. Thanks so much for having me, Ellen. Hello to everybody. Bobbi Meloro. I'm an elder law attorney located in Broward County, Florida, and I deal with these kinds of issues every day, and I'm really hoping to bust some misconceptions and myths that are out there about Medicaid and give you the accurate information that you need to know how best to care for your loved ones.
Thank you so much. And I'm Ellen Mitchell, your Heels on the Ground in the Miami-Fort Lauderdale area. And on this channel, we're going to talk about probate, guardianship, Medicaid, and many, many more things. But today we're really going to get into Medicaid long-term care. I met Bobbi through a probate, guardianship, and estate planning attorney that does not deal with Medicaid. I know it's a very specialized field, and one of the things that people are often confused about Medicaid and Medicare. What is the difference between the two?
Yes, that's a very big area of confusion. So Medicare is health insurance, right? For anyone that's 65 and over, you have access to the Medicare health insurance program. But Medicare covers things like doctor's visits, hospital stays, lab work, things like that. It does not cover long-term care. So if a senior starts to need long-term care, and by that I mean maybe a home health aide in the home or an assisted living community or a nursing home, they need help with their daily tasks of living, then that's considered long-term care. Medicare does not cover any of that, but there is a government program that does, that many people don't know about, and it's called the Medicaid Long-Term Care Program. So it covers long-term care aids and assistance for the activities of daily living.
And a lot of people, like myself, had thought that in order to qualify for Medicaid long-term care, you really had to be destitute. And I found out since that that is not the case, that you can work with a professional such as yourself to plan effectively and to, you know, potentially be eligible for Medicaid long-term care. Can you explain how that works?
Yes. So it is a program that's based on financial need. So we do look at income, we look at assets, and there are certain assets that count for Medicaid and certain assets that don't count. So we'll sit down with our families, we'll go through what their income and assets are, and we will analyze that in accordance with the Medicaid rules. So elder law attorneys know the Medicaid rules very well. We know what's allowed and what's not allowed. And there are many strategies and tools available under those Medicaid rules that allow you to still qualify if you might be over income or over asset.
And one of the misconceptions that people had, one of the misconceptions that I had, was that you could not own your home or own a home, because in my thought process, it's like, okay, they own a home, it's worth $600,000, they don't have a mortgage on it, therefore that would put them over income or over assets because they had this. Can you get on Medicaid if you have a home?
Yes. So a homestead is one of those things that is not counted as an asset for Medicaid. It's an exempt asset. You know, we live in Florida. Florida is very protective of its homestead laws. That's known nationwide. It's in our Florida Constitution that homestead is protected. So they do not count your homestead up to a certain value. You know, you can't own a mansion and qualify for Medicaid. That value, the equity value, changes a little bit each year. Right now it's around $700,000 in equity in your home. So if your home is worth more than $700,000 and doesn't have a mortgage on it, you would have to look at some other strategies. But if it's valued less than $700,000 or has a mortgage, it doesn't count, and you can still qualify for Medicaid. Oftentimes I see that people make a mistake of selling their home in order to finance their long-term care. Now, when you do that, you're converting an exempt asset, a homestead that doesn't count, into cash, which does count. And you'd have to shelter the cash in a different way. So it's usually not a good idea to sell your home if you don't have to.
And that brings me to the next question, which is another common misconception is that you cannot apply for Medicaid that there's a 5-year look back and that you would have had to apply for Medicaid 5 years prior to needing it. When should people contact you to start having these discussions?
So when people do their own research, that question comes up so often. People come in asking about the 5-year look back period. That only applies in rare circumstances. First of all, it only applies to gifts. So the way Medicaid looks at things, you cannot give your assets away in order to qualify. If you do, you get penalized for a period of 5 years. The strategies that we use do not involve gifting. So the strategies that we use do not even, come into play with that 5-year look back period. But that said, there are certain things you can do ahead of time. If you are, in your 70s and you're healthy and you want to start making plans for long-term care, we could use a gifting strategy. If you think, I'm not going to need long-term care for at least 5 years, then we could do something called an irrevocable trust, which Medicaid looks at like a gift because you're putting someone else in charge of your assets. Or you could gift money to your children. You'd want to make sure that you're within the tax parameters of things like that. But that is a strategy. So if you have a lot of time, you have more options. So it is good to plan ahead.
And then finally, the other really big misconception that people have is that if a place accepts Medicaid, that it's really the worst of the worst, that it's a horrid location, that it's a last resort, a place you really would not want to be in yourself, and you certainly wouldn't want your family members to be in. So can you?
Yes, so that's not true. There are two different types of communities where seniors who need long-term care live. One type is called an assisted living community, and that is not all assisted living communities accept Medicaid, but many lovely communities do. My mother lives in one, and she's very happy, and it's like, I call it the Ritz, I tease her. It's a lovely community. And it's because the way it works in assisted living is a little bit different. Then you have nursing homes, right? We call those skilled nursing facilities now, and by federal law, every nursing home must accept Medicaid. Now, the trick comes because they only have to allot a certain percentage of their population to Medicaid. So there's a very limited number of beds available where they accept Medicaid. But we're talking about every nursing home in the state of Florida and has to accept it. So find one that you're comfortable with, one that you like. You might have to get on a waiting list because, like I said, they're high in demand. So it's not true that only certain facilities accept Medicaid. It's not true when it comes to nursing homes.
And I know that people can apply for Medicaid on their own. They don't need to engage the services of an attorney, but I also know that Medicaid is a huge bureaucracy and that one mistake could get you rejected for Medicaid. So I would strongly recommend that anybody that wants more information and is going to apply for Medicaid consult with a Medicaid planning attorney. How does that, I know because I've worked with you on it, but how does that work with people? Do you set up an initial consultation? Is it a flat fee, an hourly fee? How does that work?
Yes, so we do have an initial consultation and we don't charge for that. That's just kind of a get to know you meeting. What are you looking to accomplish? And we can explain the different services that we provide. All of our services are flat fee and they range from, we have all-inclusive packages that cover everything from soup to nuts that you might need. And then if you want to tackle some things on your own, we also have an a la carte menu of services so you can pick and choose what you'd like some help with. But it is extremely difficult and cumbersome, and even I have trouble with it, and that's actually why I got into this field. My own parents were aging and I was helping them through these processes, and I'm realizing how I was really struggling, and I'm thinking, this is before I became an elder law attorney. How do families that don't have a daughter that's a lawyer tackle this kind of thing? How do seniors do it on their own? I just realized there's such a huge need for it. They really put up every obstacle, and it's so important to have an advocate on your side that knows the system and can really hold your hand through the process, because it is hard.
It is, and absolutely. I mean, that's how I got into this niche. Not the Medicaid niche, but the probate, guardianship, and senior relocation is with my own family. There are so many challenges, and there's really no roadmap of what to do. So being able to be of service to people is such a gift. We're going to put Bobbi's information down below so that you can contact her, and we are going to follow up with another conversation, because I know we have a lot more to discuss, and it's a long conversation. We're going to take it from here. I read all of your comments. Any comments, questions, suggestions for future episodes, please let me know. It would really help if you liked and subscribed below, and look forward to a follow-up conversation with Bobbi, because we have a lot more to cover.